cannot understand the role that resisting voice has played in America in exposing the deepest injustices our culture inflicts on people, racism, anti-Semitism, sexism, homophobia, unless you take seriously the connections of voice to love across the boundaries, love which defy the conventional conception that you only make love within your religious group, your ethnic group, your racial group, or your gender group. And you can't understand, it's before our eyes, but we don't see it. What I found in the figures that I study, all of whom, are major, often artists, 5 or 6 of them are artists, who find a voice resisting very deep injustices that afflict them, either as women or as gay men or lesbians, through love, through new forms of love. And you can't understand their resistance unless you take seriously these new forms of love. I call it love across the boundaries. Middlemarch is a masterpiece of criticism of Victorian marriage. And I think it's written from outside Victorian marriage. She sees its problems. That's what makes Middlemarch such an astonishing book, because it's her voice as a woman studying how destructive Victorian marriage is of both women, Dorothea, and men, Lydgate. And then in the Mills, which is in some ways the most ethically remarkable relationship, Mill and Harriet Taylor, again, an adulterous relationship, and they collaborate and create masterpieces of political liberalism on liberty and the subjection of women. These are astonishing works, and I don't think can be understood unless you take seriously the new forms of love they find and the sense of the injustice that afflicts them, which in this case is, patriarchal sexism. When I began my work in the 70s advocating, gay rights, no one. It was criminal almost every place in the United States. It was difficult even to make an argument because there had been such repression of voice. But when people like me developed new forms of love, of people who enabled us to see ourselves as individuals, etc., there was a voice there which arose. And I think you can really track the remarkable development in the Supreme Court decisions in that voice. And to me, it culminates in the gay marriage decisions, which do recognize these forms of associations as really being no different fundamentally, ethically, constitutionally, from conventional marriage, quite the opposite. The court decided Brown v. Board in '54, ruling unconstitutional the use of race to segregate in public schools. They didn't get to anti-miscegenation until 1967 because they knew it was much more incendiary. And of course, it's the key to racism. They had to develop a more of a constituent. I think there is the same pattern going on with all forms of the love laws. They are crucial to holding in place these evils, and I mean these evils of anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, and homophobia, which divide people from one another in a way they come to regard as natural, but in fact they're the key to atrocity.